Relationship advice. Brother's wife had an affair with me, but he won't believe that I didn't know. Everything feels like it's falling apart, and I don't want it to end this way. My older brother and I used to be close as kids, but we had different lives. Both had the same dad but different moms. My mom was a junkie, so his mom used to let me stay with them often. Around my senior year of high school, I started falling into the same thing as my mom, and that messed up my relationship with him. I was an a-hole back then, and basically took advantage of his and his mom's help. Stole money from them for D's, made them think I was getting help and needed money for rent. Not proud of what I did, and I absolutely deserved it when they both cut me out of their lives. Was only 21 at the time, and for 3 years I was out of control with my drinking, and getting high all the time. It was a really bad period in my life. Second time I OD'd, I started going to rehab. I'm 29, sober for 5 years, got my GED, and working full-time at a recycling plant. Over a year ago, I decided to reach out to my brother. Wanted to show him that I changed my life around, and want to reconnect with him because I know I messed up in the past. My brother was willing to talk, and slowly have been keeping touch through Zoom, phone calls, and texts. It's been so great having my brother back in my life. I know he still doesn't fully trust me, and I don't blame him. He's gotten married and has 2 kids, a girl and a boy ages 4 and 2. Still haven't met them, because like I said, I'm working on earning that trust, and he doesn't want them to know who I am just yet. Was never even shown a picture of them. That includes his wife, or soon-to-be ex-wife. But turns out, she's the freaking lying piece of work I've hooked up with from time to time over the years. Met her years ago when I think I was 23 or 24. We took X together, and hooked up at my buddy's house. We met again at another party 8 months later. From there, we'd hook up every once in a while. But I never had a clue she was married. We went long periods without seeing each other, but I was busy with my job and working my program, so never thought anything of it. We were never anything serious, it was always about having intercourse and not seeing each other for months. Last time I saw her, was close to 7 months ago. He found out last week. When he called me, I had no idea why he was so pissed, and he told me everything. About how he found she had another phone hidden in the house, and he found the texts she sent me. Then he'd confronted her wanting to know who the guy was, and she admitted it was me. I don't know how much she told him, or if she's trying to throw me under the bus too. She knew all this time since me and him started talking again, that I was his brother, and never said anything until she was caught. He was half yelling at me, half crying, that he couldn't believe I'd do this to him after all the things he's done for me, and that I'm dead to him. No matter how many times I told him I didn't know it was her, he still didn't believe me. Eventually he hung up on me, and all my calls are going to voicemail now. I've texted him a million times explaining everything and telling him I'm sorry, but now I'm not getting anything. I can't imagine how much he's hurting right now. I hate that I'm the one who caused this. Now it's like I keep going back, and thinking about why it never occurred to me that she probably was married with kids. Is it that I just didn't care to think about it? Would have never slept with a married woman, and now it looks like I've messed up my relationship with him for life. It just hurts to think about it. We were doing so well building things back up and going back to how we used to be. Now I've hurt him again and I'm scared I'll never be able to see him, or my niece and nephew ever. Now for the top advice. I'm sure this isn't the response you want, but you're right that this might irrevocably change your relationship with your brother. And honestly, even if it's not your fault and you didn't know, I think you're just going to have to accept that. I think you should give him some time, at least a couple of weeks, to get over the initial shock of finding out his wife cheated on him. Then reach out to him again and apologize, and say you'd like to explain if he'd be open to talking to you. You don't know what his wife has said, maybe she didn't throw you under the bus and was completely honest about keeping that info from you. Either way, you still slept with his wife, and he might never get over that. It's not, but I know it's one that I need to hear. I'm just hoping with everything, that he can find it in himself in the future to forgive me. I'll give him his space right now since I'm sure it hurts and he's got his kids to think about. It just would hurt too much to lose him again after everything. He's the only family I have, and hope we can get to a better place. You've been hooking up with this lady for years. He has 2 kids that are 4 and 2. You could be the father of those kids and not him. You need to take a huge step back from this for a second and actually think about this situation, because it could be 10 times more messed up than you think right now, and you might have 2 children that you never heard of being raised by your half-brother. I've had the same thought and was looking for the paternity test comment. Would your buddy, whose house you first hooked up with her at, know whether or not you knew who she was? If so, maybe have him write an email to your brother on your behalf. Otherwise, give him some time and distance to process. For now, get into counseling to discuss this and everything else in your life. After you've worked through some of it, and after he's had time to process, ask your counselor to help you word a letter/email to send to him that apologizes, explains, and then leaves the ball in his court whether to ever respond. I'm not sure if she was already with my brother or not back then, but it wouldn't be possible to reach out to my buddy anyways. He was also my dealer, and I basically cut contact with everyone from that life when I started doing rehab. Now for the next story. My wife is cheating on me. I apologize in advance for how long this post is, but I need to paint the picture of what's going on. My wife and I are 36 and have been married for 9 years. Her daughter is my stepdaughter, who I call my daughter and she calls me dad, as she was 4 when we met. My career forces us to move often and me to be gone for long periods of time. At the beginning of our relationship there were a lot of guys messaging her in an attempt to hook up. She always told them she was in a relationship and the conversation soon ended. One of her exes, we'll call him Joe, sent her a letter, stating he would do everything in his power to get her back, but she never responded to my knowledge. Fast forward 2 years to my return from my first long trip away, 1 year. I go to check my email, and it's hers that's signed in. Admittedly, I looked at the first message which was from a swinger website, informing her she had a message. When I asked her about it, she claimed that she hadn't been on that website since we got together. Okay, fine. I do notice that now her libido is quite lower than before due to antidepressant medication. Let's move on 4 years to the return from my second trip away, 9 months. Upon my return, there was nothing crazy. It seemed everything went well and we were back to a loving family. The only weird thing that gained during that time was, my wife was getting ready to go back home to visit family, and started shaving her you-know-what in the shower right before her flight. I asked her why she needed to do that when she's just going to visit family, and her reply was that, it gets uncomfortable. Alright. Only a few months later, I had to leave again for 9 months. I was looking for a computer to take with me and she suggested I just use her iPad. Awesome, let me set it up and we'll be good to go. The day before I leave, I open Facebook Messenger to log out and sign in with mine, and I see an option for secret messages. Okay, you have my interest. When I open it, I see a message from her ex Joe 4 years ago. Well, now I'm opening it. I see that she's sending Joe topless photos, and telling him she's going to be back in town for a few days. She then gives him her number and the messages stop. When I ask her, she starts crying and tells me that yes, she had sent him pictures and he sent her some in return. They had plans to meet up, but she claims they never did. She swears she'll do anything she can to make up for it, proves she's changed, and swears it was a one-time mistake in which nothing physical happened. She said it was so long ago, and it's been killing her ever since then. This is just what I wanted to deal with the day before I leave. I tell her that she needs to work on herself while I'm gone, but we will get through it and hopefully this makes us stronger than ever. The next day is our anniversary and I left for 9 months. When I get home from my latest trip, my daughter, now 14, is having a tough time with being a teen and her emotions. During one of our talks, she tells me that during my second trip away, she woke up one morning and saw a naked man in my bedroom sitting on the side of the bed trying to wake up my wife who was also naked. She said she ran back to her room and started crying. About 15 minutes later, she said she went back into my bedroom where my wife was now awake, asking her why she's crying. She told her she saw a man in the house. My wife then gets out of bed, grabs the gun and starts looking through the home to find no one is there. My wife then tells my daughter not to tell me about it since nothing happens, and the conclusion was, she must have been dreaming. When I ask my wife about it, she swears there was no one there, and said she's scared because she didn't have any idea why my daughter saw someone. So that night, with my suspicion boiling over at this point, I'm determined to put my mind at ease by checking her email and finding nothing. Well, she's been using her school email and there are Craigslist messages from a couple seeking a partner to join them, messages from a swingers website welcoming her to their site and that she has messages, a message from Kik so she can text on a different app, and another one-night stand website welcoming her to their site. I'm completely devastated and have no idea where to go from here. We have raised our daughter together, own a house together, vehicles, dogs, and our families love both of us. I'm looking for any type of advice or what someone has done that worked for them in a situation similar to this. Please help me. Now for the top advice. Talk to a lawyer and explore your options. It sounds like your marriage is over, sorry to say. If you combine everything that happened, what do you think? Multiple times she gets away with a strange explanation, and one time a sort of confession where nothing had happened. Then your daughter tells about a naked man in the house, and your wife waves that away too. What do you really think? What do you really think about this, down to earth, without emotion? I think you know what this means. It means your wife cheated on you, multiple times. Or do you believe in coincidence? The odds of you winning the Powerball lottery 5 times in a row, are higher than your wife telling the truth. You know exactly what to do now, contact a lawyer, get all your ducks in a row, and confront when the time is there. Take care. She's been cheating the whole time. You need to divorce, get a lawyer and file. I lost a stepdaughter in my divorce, that part was way harder than the divorce itself. I might have stayed if I knew we'd never see my stepson again, Mourning the loss of a living person is crushing. This is coming from someone who's been through 4D days, and pretty sure 5 is looming on the horizon. Run. They don't change, they're getting help, and changing is an act, and all you get is big steaming pile of humiliation and manure. She's got a problem that I called hurting the people around her. For God's sake, she is even gaslighting her daughter and abusing her with this nonsense. How cruel is it to make your daughter believe that there's an offender in the house, when really, it's some guy you invited to cheat on your husband? Now the daughter is left feeling crazy, or that her home is unsafe. I can't believe a mother would do that to her own child. It's grotesque. Get your stepdaughter out of there if you can. Let your lawyer know that kind of thing is taking place, and look into therapy for your daughter too, so you have leverage in court. I'm so sick for you. Stay strong and don't look back. Now for the last story. He said he did it because my ex emasculated him. My boyfriend and I started dating when we were 14. A year after graduating and getting our first real jobs, he broke up with me, because he needed time to find himself and figure out what he wanted, and it wouldn't be fair to me for him to make me wait around for him. I was devastated, but I agreed to give him space. I found out a month later that he was dating a co-worker. Devastated doesn't even begin to describe how I felt. It took me a whole year before I was finally starting to get over him. I didn't want a relationship, so I started an FWB arrangement with Luke. When my boyfriend found out, he dumped his girlfriend and came crawling back. He claimed he made a mistake, and only realized when he thought he was losing me forever. I still loved him a lot, so I decided to try again. I then found out I was pregnant, and the timing didn't work out for the baby to be my boyfriend's. He wanted me to terminate, and when I said I couldn't do it, he broke up with me again and sent me a picture of him kissing the girl he left me for originally. I respected his decision, even though he would occasionally send me messages to give me false hope. I eventually blocked him for my own sanity. Around this time, I got into some financial difficulties and had a horrible reality check on just how expensive babies are. Luke offered to let me stay with him temporarily, and then let me move into a house he owned. We formed a great co-parenting relationship, but I could never get over my ex, so nothing more happened between us. My boyfriend and I started dating again when my son was 2.5. He also had a 9-month-old daughter at this point with his ex. He moved in with me, and things were great for the most part. There was a lot of tension between Luke and my boyfriend though. He would get mad whenever he came over to spend time with our son, or when he would get things for him. My boyfriend was very vocal about how he thought Luke was going to turn my son into a spoiled brat, and would tell me all of the ways he would parent him differently. Things started getting bad when my boyfriend started voicing his criticism to Luke, who didn't take too kindly to being told how to be a dad. I begged my boyfriend to stop, but he wouldn't, and it eventually got so bad that Luke told him he'd evict him if he didn't learn to shut up. My boyfriend was furious at me. He claimed I should have told him Luke was the landlord, and he had assumed the house was mine. A few months after this, my boyfriend started acting weird. He would get angry at me whenever I had to talk to Luke. He would accuse me of sleeping with him, and thought I was the reason Luke broke up with his girlfriend. He claimed he had evidence, and if I confessed, he would forgive me. I tried everything to convince him it was all in his head. Eventually he told me if I told Luke I couldn't speak to him anymore outside of a parenting app, he would forgive me, and things could go back to how they were before. I agreed, but when I told Luke, he kept pushing for a reason. It was humiliating to admit, but he was the one who told me my boyfriend was probably projecting. It took me 2 whole months to muster up the courage to check his phone, and it was all there. He wasn't even trying to hide it. He was sleeping with his daughter's mother again, and had been for 6+ months. They were expecting a second child, and my boyfriend was making promises that he would kick me out of Luke's house, so her and their kids could move in. I confronted him and he barely reacted at first. It was only when I told him to leave that he broke down crying. He said he only did it because I had let Luke disrespect him time and time again. That he had felt emasculated, and needed the validation to feel secure in our relationship. How none of this would have happened if I had just got the termination. He said he was sorry, and begged me for a second chance. It's been a month, and at first, we started having tons of intercourse, and he was acting super loving and was offering to move mountains if it meant I would give him a second chance. Now he refuses to talk about his cheating and acts like it never happened. If I try to push the issue, he gets angry and scary. He thinks I should be over it already since he had a good reason for doing it, and he stopped as soon as he said he would, but I just can't. I think about it constantly. I obsess over it every time he goes to see his daughter, or he leaves the house. He wants us to get married soon, but the thought of marrying him makes me sick. I don't know how to get over this. How do you get over your partner's affair? Now for the top advice. Second chance? That was at least the 4th chance by my count. Why do you keep letting him in and expecting things to be different? This relationship is a crap show. Y'all weren't made to be together. I know y'all have history, but since the first time you broken up when he cheated, it's been horrible. Now kids are being dragged through this messy and toxic environment. Move on. He is who he is. A terrible life partner. Quit giving him chances and expecting change. You are stuck in the sunk cost fallacy. Thinking you can get back what you've already lost. Nope. Learn to love yourself first and foremost. Recognize the kind of relationship and environment you want to raise your kids in and what you need to personally be happy. Please strive for peace in your life. It will never happen with him in it, and luckily you have no children together, so y'all can truly disconnect and move on, and start planning a happier future separate. Her boyfriend is trash. Jesus. Luke is mature by entire magnitude orders. Why is Luke not your boyfriend/hubby? Is he shy of commitment? Do you keep dropping him for your idiot, abusive boyfriend or what? Dump this fool forever, before he starts taking it out on your son. I don't think that relationship is salvageable. Too much toxicity that sounds like it's based on previous heartbreaks. I recently had to stop talking to an ex for the same reason. No matter how much chemistry we had, we'd always end up angry for some dumb reason. We just aren't compatible. He showed you his true colors way before, and you still let him back in. He will never change. Time to lay in the bed you made and kick him out of your life. I hate to say it, but it almost sounds like these rooted issues aren't going to be fixed. Your child isn't going to go away, and in turn, neither is his father. There are long-term issues here, and though I wish you the best, space may just be the best thing for you too. And that's it for this video, guys. If you have thoughts to share, leave a comment below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you like this content. I'll catch you in the next one. Good day, everyone.